You know, when you think about who pays the most tax in Singapore, your mind probably jumps to the high flyers, right? The big earners. But what if I told you that a humble family car could actually be a bigger tax player than a middle-class professional? I know, it sounds kind of wild, but stick with me, because the numbers tell a really fascinating story. So let's just put it out there, plain and simple. Over a 10-year period, who do you think contributes more to the country? Is it the person with a solid professional salary or the person who just bought a typical family sedan? Take a guess, because I'm betting the answer is going to surprise you.
Okay, so let's meet our two contenders in this little showdown. In one corner, we have a professional pulling in a respectable $120,000 a year. And in the other corner, a brand spanking new Toyota Corolla Altis. We're going to crunch the numbers and see who pays more in taxes over a decade. Let's get into it.
All right, first things first, we need a baseline. So let's figure out exactly how much income tax our professional is paying. This number is going to be the benchmark for everything else we look at. So if you're earning $120,000, Singapore's tax system is actually pretty light on you. The way it's structured, your total annual tax bill works out to be just under $8,000, a little over $7,950. And get this, that's before you even start claiming any personal reliefs, which would push that number even lower. Okay, so multiply that by 10 years, assuming the income stays the same, and our professional pays a total of $79,500 in income tax, all right? Lock that number in your head. That's our target. That's the number the car has to be. Now, let's switch gears and look at the car. And folks, this is where things get, well, really interesting. See, in Singapore, a car is never just a car. It's more like a tax collection machine on wheels. A whole bundle of different taxes all rolled into one. Just to get the car on the road, before you've even driven a single kilometer, the tax bill is just massive. You've got the COE, the certificate of entitlement, which is over $100,000 right there. And yeah, that's pretty much all tax. Then on top of that, you're hit with the ARF, the additional registration fee, plus excise duty and GST. It is a huge, huge upfront cost. And, oh, it doesn't stop there. Not by a long shot. After that initial hit, you've got the slow burn of taxes over the next 10 years. We're talking about your annual road tax, the tax hidden in every single liter of petrol you buy, and of course all those ERP charges. It just keeps adding up, a little bit at a time, to the tune of nearly $20,000 over the decade. Okay, so you might be thinking, but wait, don't you get some of that tax back? And you'd be right. There's something called the PARF rebate, which used to give you a pretty big chunk of that initial tax back when you deregistered the car. It was a really important part of the whole financial picture. But, well, things have changed. A lot. And this is the kicker. Check out this policy change. Under the old system, our Corolla owner could expect to get $10,000 back. Not bad, right? Well, under the new rules for 2026, that rebate gets absolutely slashed to just $1,000. Poof! That's a $9,000 difference. $9,000 that used to go back to the owner now stays with the government. All right, the moment of truth is getting close. We've got the giant upfront taxes, the decade of smaller running taxes, and now we factored in that tiny little rebate you get back at the end. So, what do you think the grand total tax contribution for this car is? Any guesses? And there it is. $172,800. Let that sink in. That's the total tax paid for one single, normal, mass-market Toyota Corolla over just 10 years. Okay, it's time for the main event. Let's put these two numbers side by side. The professional's income tax versus the car's total tax bill. The verdict is in. And look at that. It's not even close. The car owner ends up paying over $172,000. That's more than double the nearly $80,000 paid by our professional. It's just a perfect illustration of how a simple family car in Singapore is actually one of the state's most powerful tax collection tools. So, if a regular Toyota is a tax machine, what happens when we go luxury? Let's really up the stakes here. Let's look at something like a BMW 7 Series. Because if you thought those numbers were high, you haven't seen anything yet. We're about to go from expensive to absolutely astronomical. So why is it so much more expensive? Well, it all comes down to that additional registration fee, the ARF. It's a progressive tax, but progressive doesn't even do it justice. The tax rate doesn't just climb, it skyrockets. Once you get to the most expensive tier of the car's value, the tax rate is a frankly brutal 320%.
So you take that BMW 7 Series, you add up these COE, that crazy multi-tiered ARF, all the other duties and running costs, and the total 10-year tax bill comes out to, are you ready for this? Over $385,000. Incredible.
And this is the final mind-blowing comparison. The tax paid on just one luxury car is almost identical to the total income tax paid by a top 5% earner in Singapore, someone making $300,000 a year. Think about that. The car owner and the high-flying professional are contributing basically the same amount of money to the government's budget. Wow.
So after all that, what does this all really mean? How should we even think about car ownership in Singapore? It's pretty clear it's about way more than just getting from point A to point B. It's actually a fundamental part of the country's entire financial strategy. This quote just nails it. The government essentially sees car ownership as a form of voluntary wealth tax. It's not mandatory, right? You choose to own a car. And by making that choice, you are also choosing to pay these massive taxes. It's a system designed to generate revenue from those who can afford and are willing to pay for the convenience.
And that brings us to one final, pretty provocative question to leave you with. Imagine that high earner, the one making $300,000 a year. Now imagine they also buy that BMW 7 Series. You add it all up, and their combined tax bill over a decade is almost $800,000. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? For the people who choose to live that lifestyle, how much of what they earn is actually theirs to keep?